Hello, my name is Nat Phillips. I help large companies develop their human capital, mainly by designing global management and leadership programs, and I deliver those programs internationally. I also coach the other trainers to deliver the program. I'm also involved in coaching. I do career and success coaching. Well, before talking about my philosophy of learning, in my own experience, I have noticed that some conditions have to be there for a successful management or leadership program. And I can name three of these conditions. The first one is have a strong relational bond between me, the trainer, and the learners. And the learners need to be able to know that you're credible in order for them to receive the message you have. Second, you need to create a safe space for learners so they can be themselves, so they are seen, they are heard, they are respected, and they are appreciated. And also, you need to create a real team with a high level of trust for people to be able to reveal themselves, talk about the real issues, tackle the real challenges, solve problems, uh, do peer coaching, share, and learn together and be in this inquiry and learning mode. So, what is my learning philosophy? I'm mainly concerned with adult learning and development. So, from the learning side, I- I'm quite happy with using Andragogy. And for the development side, I'm rather a constructionist, and I follow the Colbert School and Kagan and Otto Lasky. So from learners are at different levels of cognitive and social emotional maturity, so they will receive the message depending on where they are. So they have different worldviews, they have different belief systems. And in my experience, the managers actually don't find any difficulty acquiring new learning or horizontal learning, or even transforming it into know-how that they can use. But they have quite a challenge when they need to grow. So that means vertical growth have a different level of maturity. This, in fact, takes a much longer time. And it's not something you can do in one go in a 2-day programs or even in a 12-day program. So I tackle basically both needs. So for the short term, and I create the experiences that allow them to acquire this new learning and be able to apply it. But then I try to plant a seed for future maturity, growth, and generally I propose a coaching where I can follow them for 1 or 2 years. And I like to paraphrase always this beautiful phrase of good where you must be before you can do, in order to be able to do it from a place of congruence and integrity. So if your posture is right, whatever you say from this posture is going to be correct. If your posture is not right, then whatever you're going to say is going to be shallow. In terms of history of the learning trends, I really appreciated the required reading the article by Alan Reed, and where he explains that we are basically going from objectivism that includes behaviorism and cognitivism, knowledge-based approach, to constructivism, where it's a learner-centered approach, where we are designing as trainers the learning experience that will allow the learners to create their own reality and their own meaning making, and probably using much more digital technology than in the past. So to continue to illustrate the trends, let's look at instructional design under behaviorism, under cognitivism, and under constructivism. So for behaviorism, let's take the method called direct instruction. So in direct instruction, you will have 4 steps. The first one is to model or give a demonstration. Second step will be to break it down to incremental steps. Third is to give examples and counter examples. And finally, it is to allow learners to rehearse till they get the results that are needed. If we look at cognitivism, and we can choose a learning scenario that starts with setting goals, then motivating or incentivizing the training, then modeling the learning, then demonstrating each component separately, then asking the learners to describe it in their own word, what is the process by which they learn, then ask learners to apply the learning in a real life example, then pair learners to share their feedback, and finally ask learners to peer evaluate each other. In constructivism, if we look at the guiding principles of Brooks and Brooks, it starts with posing problems of emerging relevance. Relevance, that means you have to know what the learners already know, or try to link it to this base. Then structuring learning around primary concept. You have to start with the big picture in mind, so they can break it down into smaller components. Then you have to seek and value learners' point of view, and this is quite important because it will allow you to understand their reasoning. Then you have to adapt the curriculum to address learners' supposition, and this is really, for me, the developmental part. You have to know where the cognitive maturity of your learners, and finally using assessment throughout the training to adapt the learning. So assessment is actually used for you to choose the right experiments or experiences or training or material they need to continue learning.